That photograph of Christmas, that kid saw so many possibilities. I think he would have looked at me and said, "You're 38 years older than me and you're still doing the same stuff I'm doing." That sucks. We are so busy aggressively pursuing what we want. We no longer have a conscience and we can no longer connect with our higher power. If you had asked me what peace was, I wouldn't have had a good answer. Knowing what peace is now, which is that I can not need to change anything and not have a bazillion thoughts going, is so different than anything I experienced at that time.
Welcome to The Couple Cure. Here's Jay and Lori Pyatt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Couple Cure. I'm Jay.
And I'm Lori. And before we get started, please know we're going to be playing around with the different editing styles. We want to give you all what you want. So let us know the kind you like, but we also don't want to make these so long that, it's just boring y'all to tears. So we can either do normal, like long form and leave more of the uhs and ums in it, or we can have it be really choppy. So y'all decide. Next time, we're going to be talking about how did you pretend to change? This is more about, could you see your heart hardening? So there's going to be 11 questions. The first one is, can you look back and see your heart hardening over the years?
Oh, yeah. Harden and soften and then really harden and then soften. I saw it kind of go back and forth. When we first met, I felt like my heart was fairly soft. As we started having fights over my behavior and feeling like I was the problem, I got hardened to you telling me that you're not seeing true change and you're not seeing healthy behavior. And then, we had a number of breakdowns until 2000 when we both went to that experience. And I feel like that reopened me, at least to an extent. I don't know if it completely reopened me or not.
Afterwards, that was one of the only times he ever fully confessed.
Yeah. It was the only time as far as I know. In 2006, other things changed and I began to lie to you. The only way to keep lying to you was to have a hard heart toward you. I mean, I don't think I could have been like, oh man, I really feel for her because some jackass is lying to her. I was the guy doing it, so I had to shut myself down to what that was doing.
I get that you're talking about having a hard heart toward me or hardening your heart toward me. I mean more in the spiritual sense.
In a lot of ways, I would say that goes hand in hand. If I was open spiritually more in 2006, I wouldn't have gone down that path. In the first 5 years we were together, I feel like I was open and then I kind of wasn't, until that experiential weekend. And then after 2010, I think it was a process of slowly becoming softer.
Okay. There was a time in college where you left porn, and I believe it was for the right reasons. What feelings led you back to it? Like entitlement, anger, not knowing how to communicate? Or I guess what things led you back to it?
At college, in my senior year, I was in a church, I was connected, and I made that decision, and it was just like, I'm done with this. I left college, and I had gone to my first training in the military, and I remember getting on the elevator, and this other guy said, it's going to be okay. I was that anxious about what was going to happen in this training. And he's like, you've already been through all of this. They're just going to revamp all the stuff you've already done in college around somebody from my past that was a bit of a trigger. So it was, again, the uncertainty, the sense of being out there on my own again, disconnected. I tried to reconnect with a church. One place I went to was really not a healthy place. And so it was just kind of, I don't like how I'm feeling. So I went back to what made me feel different.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to drink or do some of the stuff the other guys were doing that didn't line up with what I was used to.
How long was your sobriety then?
I would say 6 months.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. Going back to number 2, you mentioned anxiety. Just in a nutshell, what were the other feelings?
different community, no connection to a church, lack of connection, uncertainty, and this person from my past, judgment and abandonment.
Number 3, when did you first notice your emotional responses becoming muted or automatic? Or did you? Was it me bringing up like, your prayers are so rote? Or was it before then?
I don't know how much I noticed it. I feel like there was kind of a sense of overwhelm going on in the midst of it.
Okay.
I'm speaking the 2006 and on kind of time frame. Prior to that, I don't know that I noticed that I was hardening, not as into certain things, but I didn't really notice that I was hardening.
Okay. Number 4, was there ever a moment where you felt, I should be feeling something right now, but I didn't? I talked about being on Prozac. Both Jay and I were like, I should be crying. This is a really touching commercial. This is the kind of thing that I normally would cry about. And that's where we knew is like, maybe I back off on this and find a more natural approach to dealing with my depression. But did you ever notice that within yourself?
We're talking about feelings and whether or not I noticed them. I think that was probably a big part of that experiential weekend. It reopened me to emotions that I was not feeling, that I was dealing with somehow. I was eating at them because I was at my highest weight right before that weekend. I was gaming at them. I was watching TV at them. And sometimes I was using at them. After 2000, was probably still doing something to manage them, but I do feel like I became like softer. I know I cried more. I know I had a different empathetic reaction to certain situations and people. There were times that I was pretty shut down, like during the relapse. That was a little girl. She died in there.
His cat.
While it was painful, I was more angry and frustrated than I was really feeling the loss.
Okay. Huh. Did it occur to you, though, like I should be feeling grief right now? Or were you just in like Ultraman mode, or I can't remember what my therapist called it. Ultramale. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I also lost my 3 grandparents in 2009. That I didn't really respond to very big.
It wasn't your first grandparent that died. You were really close to him. He seemed like a treasure.
Yeah. So it didn't register with me that I wasn't feeling it at the same level, I don't guess.
Okay. Number 5, did you ever interpret that numbness as maturity or strength?
Probably. Maybe resilience would be like, man, this is just what happens, and kind of brushing it off, thinking, well, yeah, you don't have to let every emotion overwhelm you or take you down.
We covered Jay's reaction to my tears and my pain in the last one, so go check that one out. That's 612. But how did you train yourself, consciously or not consciously, to stop reacting to my pain?
I've done things that hurt you. I've apologized for them. We're moving on. Not really staying connected to your pain. So I think it was more training myself. Like at that time, before 2006, I would say my pattern was we do something wrong. We have this terrible breakdown. And then I eventually recognize how wrong I was and I apologize. And that was the end of it in my head.
Wow.
It wasn't until later that we were like, what are you going to do to make it right? How are you going to, So I didn't spend a lot of time, especially after 2000. It's like, well, I'm not using, and we've gotten past some of that. And she's not, I don't know that you were bringing it up much, either out of,
Well, you were given those promises every day, and I was believing you.
Yeah. So then I didn't think you were in pain. While I was relapsing, I didn't think you were in pain. You didn't know what was going on. I was content with that.
He basically had sufficiently shut me up.
Yeah.
At that point. So number 7, what situations in your life should have broken you but didn't?
My divorce. It kind of broke me, losing my Army career, losing
Groucho, your first cat?
that one. that was such a weird situation because I was in California when he died and I wasn't going to be home for 2 weeks. So I had my emotional outlet there, but my grandfather dying and Dave dying and Groucho dying. For my grandfather and my friend, they were both sick. They both had cancer. They were both dying from it. And so to a degree, I saw it as
Inevitable.
the Christianese of they're in a better place, and really trying to buy into that and say, well, I don't need to grieve for them. They're good. I think those should have broken me. There were some terrible things that happened between me and you that should have broken me. They didn't. I didn't let them. I didn't let them in. Just felt like for so many years I excused those behaviors to myself.
Okay. Number 8. Did spiritual language like peace or surrender or forgiveness, they're in a better place, ever disguise your emotional hardening?
I might have said something like, I'm at peace with it, or I have peace over this situation. But if you had pressed me to ask me what peace was, I wouldn't have had a good answer.
Oh, wow.
Because
It hurts my heart a little, knowing that you didn't ever really have it.
Knowing what peace is now, which is that I can be silent, sit quietly, and not need to change anything and not have a bazillion thoughts going or anything like that, is so different than anything I experienced at that time. So for me to say I was at peace with it was like, I can't change it. So I guess I'm just, even acceptance would have been a weird, or surrender would have been like it would have been either an acquiescence or a
resignation.
Yeah, a resignation.
I don't know why I'm saying this. Maybe somebody needs to hear this, but there is a difference between acceptance and resignation.
Yes.
Acceptance is just like, I accept that that's the way it is and there's no internal turmoil. Resignation is like, there's nothing I can do about it, but I still don't like it, but there's nothing I can do about it.
There's a edge and a
anger
to resignation. I think there's also a self-pity in resignation, like this thing was taken from me.
Okay, I like that. Number 9, did your internal world feel smaller or flatter as time went on?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The Porn is Killing Me website talks about living a bigger life. That's not necessarily having a bigger screen. That is about having a life that has more to it than just the screen in front of me. And my world had closed down to consuming and keeping the dopamine coming and not experiencing life. I was shut off from it. So my internal world was really tiny.
Okay. Number 10, can you remember moments where God was telling you to do something and you made a conscious decision to go your own way? Obviously not audibly, because I don't think he's shown up that way with you, but...
Once. Long time ago. You and I have talked about this. Every once in a while, I would get a prompting. You need to do this. I don't want to. You need to do this. And then you would ask me about it. I'm like, well, I kind of had a prompting, but... And you're like, that was the Holy Spirit talking to you. And just like, So there's definitely been those times. I don't know how much they came up when I was in active addiction because I probably wasn't paying attention. Okay.
I like that he brought that up. To me, this is how the hardened heart happens. This is how a heart is hardened. We're born soft, we're born mushy, our hearts, people can get to it. And then over time, we might get hurt. There's this first layer of, I can't trust people. When we don't deal with that hurt, we turn to addictions or harmful things. God might be saying, cut it out. Like, you're going to open a door you're never going to be able to close, or it's going to be really difficult to close. Like, you might be thinking you're opening it up a crack and the enemy slams it open and pins it, to the wall. That's going to ruin your life. And if you say, I'm going to do it anyway, what you end up doing is turning his volume down. before you could hear him, before you could feel him, you start turning that down. Well, that ends up becoming like a shell around your heart, or your heart becomes stone. And then, of course, personal relationship with God can really, really help that.
To echo that, Narcotics Anonymous, I'm working through the 12 steps with my mentor. And in step 3, there's a paragraph on self-will. And in there it says, we are so busy aggressively pursuing what we want at all cost that we no longer have a conscience and we can no longer connect with our higher power. Even outside of the churchy language within the realm of recovery, they recognize that when we're totally given over to our impulses, we lose contact with anything that would restrain us.
Thanks for adding that. Number 11. What would your younger self think of the man you were back then? If your younger self had been wise. I know there's a part of you that was like the younger self of like, video games, yes. Yeah. More porn, yes.
Yeah. I think he would have been really sad. I have that photograph of Christmas.
That one that I had, yeah.
And that kid saw so many possibilities and had hopes. I thought life was fun, thought life could be fun, thought life could be fulfilling and stuff. But I think he would have looked at me and said, wait, you're 38 years older than me now, and you're still doing the same stuff I'm doing. That sucks. I think he would have been really sad.
That picture Jay's referring to, you can just see it in his eyes. He just had the world before him. And I had to look at that picture and go, like, this was when I hated Jay in our marriage. And I had to look and go like, okay, that kid is still in there, that hopeful, stars in the eyes, super excited about life. That kid's still in there.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. So, questions for the viewers. Have you ever recognized emotional hardening in someone you love? Thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye everybody.